viewers to Mubatira Pamwe Trust talk show. And before we go any further, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the notification button. Welcome to this show, and today I've been joined by the most brilliant social worker. He's an indefatigable social worker at Mubatira Pamwe Trust, and he has done a lot. So I'm not going to introduce my guest. He's going to introduce himself before we dig deep into our issue of discussion.
All right. Thank you so much for the panegyrism. Don't mind him. My name is Misuse, and I'm a social worker intern at Mubatira Pamwe Trust. Currently studying a Bachelor of Science honors degree in social work at Women's University in Africa. Thank you.
Okay, Vuse, this is not an interview. It's more like a dialogue, a conversation, an amalgamation of ideas. And today we're going to talk about what is drug abuse. And also our second segment, we are going to proffer a prognosis, focusing on the issue of the power of music in fighting against substance and drug abuse. So I'll start with what is drug abuse. I know we are living in communities that vary, particularly you come from Mavuko. What's the situation like in Mavuko in terms of the youth that are inducing drugs?
All right, it's known as drug and substance abuse because if we only say drug, we are limiting ourselves. So through my readings and my own understanding, drug and substance use is when a drug is used other than its prescribed medical use, be it for pleasure or pain killing, but this is outside the prescription of that drug. So then it becomes drug and substance use or abuse because you are now taking this drug other than the prescribed medical use. If we say that this is going to be a painkiller and then you take it as a form of trying to reach that euphoric state, then it becomes an abuse because, right, you are now using it to achieve a euphoric end, not prescribed medical use.
Okay, thank you very much. I know there are a lot of drugs. We can talk about crystal meth, the number one menace. Right now we can talk about bronchlia, we can talk about marijuana, etc., etc. According to your own study and survey that you have done as a social worker, what do you think is the most prevalent drug that is being abused currently by the youth? And is there any difference? Because others will give narratives that probably if I'm taking marijuana, there's no harm, it's not a drug, it's a herb. So there are a lot of myths that are being perpetuated by people who are trying to justify drugs. In your own understanding, what is the number one menace in terms of the scourge to the health of the youth? And also, what do you say in terms of the myth and narratives that are being peddled around drugs?
All right. The number one problem we have, especially in our communities, is that we have a lot of street doctors who hold PhD and masters in everything.
Absolutely.
So people will be spreading lies about things they've never researched on. So it's more of a hypothesis because this is not empirically tested. So the number one menace that is scourging the communities, especially in high density areas, is crystal meth. But that's a short term. It's also known as crystal methamphetamine. Yes. So it's a stimulant that goes into the body and actually activates the nervous system as well as the brain. So there are a plethora of drugs, but they are catalogued. We have opioids, steroids, stimulants, depressants. And the other term I'm still finding it a little bit difficult to pronounce it, but it's known as barbiturates. I don't know if it's the exact pronouncing. Okay. So those are the 5 catalogs or categories we have of drugs. And the number one menace in the society right now, crystal meth, falls into the catalog of stimulant because it goes and stimulates the central nervous system as well as the brain, and it's the number one drug that is very addictive, yet it has got very debilitating effects because when a person thinks that the more he or she is getting high, the more he or she is destroying his body. So crystal meth is the drug that has become a menace and a pandemic within a pandemic.
Okay, in as much as I would want to agree with Vusa, but don't you think branding it as the number one menace and the trouble causer of a drug, isn't it justifying other drugs as saying that people might even say we could take Bronclear, because the most talked about drug right now is crystal meth, and it gives it some sort of glorification. I'm just giving my own understanding in what I'm hearing in the streets, and as an advocate and as an activist, what would you say around that issue?
Well, two wrongs don't make a right. The reason why people are talking about crystal meth is because it is the most abused drug right now. And when it is abused, there are debilitating effects which cost the health sector, the education sector, as well as the criminal and law enforcement sector. Because when one is under the influence of crystal meth, he is bound to steal in order to feed his craving and prolong his addiction. He or she strains the health system, because currently our rehabilitation centers as well as psychiatric units have been overwhelmed by the upsurge of people abusing crystal meth. So it becomes a strain on our health system as well as the health workers. As compared to other drugs, we are not glorifying them, but crystal meth has had an upsurge in the past 2 years. So it becomes a cause for concern, because it's actually now a strain on our health sector as well as the criminal and law enforcement agencies. And also it's actually leading to poor performances in school, because we see that many young, bright and talented students are dropping out of school. Why? Because they can't cope up with the schoolwork when you are trying to feed the craving and prolong your addiction. So we are not glorifying or ignoring other drugs out there, but crystal meth has had a torrid and a very disturbing effect on the growth of society and the nation at large.
You have heard it from himself, Vusa. He's saying that we are not glorifying other drugs. Every drug is bad. There's no little wrong or a smaller wrong. There's bad or good. So we are condemning drugs in their totality. Going to my next question, I understand there are plethora of causes, and we cannot cover them, all of them, because it would be a gross miscarriage of justice for us to talk about drugs but not understanding what is actually making these youth or those aged between the ages of 18 and 35 take drugs. So the plethora of causes, they can range from issues to do with childhood trauma. They can talk about peer pressure. We can talk about denial itself. We can even talk about the narratives that are being peddled, that is stigma and prejudice for someone who is taking drugs. In your own perspective, what would you think would be the number one cause in your own understanding? I know there are many, but the number one, if we focus on that cause.
Well, in my own understanding, it will be very much difficult to pinpoint the number one cause for the upsurge of taking crystal meth, because these causes work hand in glove with the situation which may lead one to actually take crystal meth.
Yes.
Because let's take, for example, if we say peer pressure, someone might overcome peer pressure, but someone is falling into the trap or the pit of peer pressure. So for us to pinpoint and say that this is the number one cause for why to take drugs, we might be doing a gross misjudgment to that. But these causes have been identified, all of them, because they contribute to one, taking crystal meth. You come from peer pressure. You know, human beings have that need to belong to a certain group. It's
Absolutely.
actually inherent in us. So peer pressure plays a role, because imagine you're going out with a group of 5 people, and you're the only one who's not taking crystal meth. So when they are taking crystal meth, what will you be doing? You will be watching. Obviously, you will will be pressured to take crystal meth, because the gang will say, for you to roll with us, you need to do this. So sometimes, because people have low self-esteem and they want to belong to a group, they'll end up taking crystal meth. Childhood traumas, yes, because whatever you faced when growing up, you're actually banking it into the subconscious mind.
Yes.
And as you grow up, what you banked in your subconscious mind will start manifesting slowly in your conscious mind. So yeah, in order to deal with it, you may end up taking drugs if you don't get the necessary help or someone to talk to or vent to. And moving on, some will actually end up taking drugs just as a form of killing depression, or trying, or just as a form of escapism. Because
Suppress,
yeah,
yes.
they'll be saying, I faced such a terrible situation, so in order for me to escape the pain, I resorted to drugs. No, we are not saying that drugs are good, because drugs are really, really bad. If you face such a situation, it's actually much more wiser to try to talk to someone who's old, or someone qualified, be it a therapist, or go for counseling sessions. So there are a plethora of reasons as to why people take drugs, and we cannot actually pinpoint them to one perspective.
Yeah, to our viewers, do engage in the comment section. We want to hear your thoughts and perspectives around the issue. Do you really think that people are trying to escape a reality and they vent into drugs? They are siphoning into another world, which is a fallacy and a fantasy. Moving to our second segment, we are going to have a controversial discussion around our own understanding of the power of music in fighting against substance and drug abuse. Do you think that music is playing a role in fighting against substance and alcohol abuse? Say, Vusa, what's your own take?
Yes, I do believe that music plays a vital role in fighting drug and substance use, because we are now known as the internet generation. You know, we're moving with
Yes,
technology.
I didn't know about that one. Internet generation.
Yeah, we are known as the internet generation. We say we are in the 21st century. So you find that a lot of young people are always on social media and they are using internet. So if we put content that actually addresses and that actually discourages the use of drug and substance use, you might find out that it's playing a very crucial role, because we are always glued either to the screens of our phones or the TV. So music becomes vital because of the message that is conveyed there. Just put words, and then you put a beat or a sweet melody to those words, and you have a lot of people listening to it. So yes, music is playing a vital role, because if you create something that's positive, discouraging young adults to take drugs, yes, they might actually listen to you, because when you listen to a song, you are probably bound to remain the lyrics, even if you are not listening to that song. So yes, in my own understanding and view, music is actually playing a critical role in the fight against drug and substance use.
But don't you think we are actually posing a big threat, since you said we are now in the internet generation, and the idea of globalization, trying to imitate what's happening in America, in UK, and there's a lot of glorification around substance and drug abuse. People, you see them singing about cocaine. I won't mention the artist names, because it's undermining their authority, but we have to say it, because when we don't talk about a future, in as much as we talk about the idea of music fighting against substance and drug abuse, but as individuals, don't you think we should have a filter that should discern between right and wrong? Because at the end of the day, you cannot know that this type of music is going to influence me negatively or positively. What can you say about that?
All right, about that filter, I would just say that an educated mind is an empowered person. You empower a person through education, because you might not be everywhere where that person is, but what goes way beyond that is education. So if we educate people about the dangers of drugs, not the myths that are being peddled in the society by what I have mentioned as street doctors, if we actually give them the information they need to know, whether they see something or they hear about something, if they really know, they are actually empowered to make a decision of themselves. So education here is the most important key, because we are not knowing what you are searching on your phone, what you watch, because it's your cell phone, that's your privacy. But if we educate you about the dangers of drugs and how they affect your body, your mind, and your soul, even your habits, you are then empowered to say, if I watch this video, if I listen to this song, what will it benefit me? What am I getting out of that song? So in this case, education is really important, so that people are taught the dangers of drugs and how they can take your life away.
Yes, viewers, you are hearing it from Save Vusa. I call him the zenith of all ideas. He's the cream de la cream of our society. And he has said that when you are talking about the idea of listening to music, you should come from an informed point of view, that you are influenced positively, and you should obviously discern between right and wrong. We are about to round up our discussion. What could you touch up as the key points in terms of solutions going forward? Because we've talked about the causes. What would be the solutions around the issue of music itself, the youth? What should we do as the youth so that we overcome this number one menace?
All right, there are a lot of solutions, but people refuse to see them. Why? Because people are afraid to face reality. So in order to escape reality, that's why people try to do drugs, because they are trying not to face life alone. But I would say the problem you are shoving right now, they are going to come back 10 times stronger.
Absolutely.
So it's much more wiser to just face the problem right now. Yes, we know we face a lot of problems in life, but I say drug and substance use is never the option out, because you are actually adding a problem on top of another problem. When you are depressed, it's wise to talk to someone older or someone you trust, your confidante, or even approach even qualified people, be it therapists, psychiatrists, or even counselors. They can help you out. We have a lot of organizations that are willing to listen without even judging. Do not conform to peer pressure, because when you conform, when you are taking drugs, you are destroying your own lives. This nation needs the young generation, because we are the future of tomorrow. So imagine if we are destroying the future, then that means there's going to be a posterity vacuum, because what the older people
Posterity vacuum. Yes.
Yes, what the other people are trying to instill in us, what are they going to instill when there's no one to instill the knowledge into? So
thank you very much, Sir Vusa, for being part of the show. It was a good interaction, and the fight against substance and alcohol abuse continues unabated. I remain yours truly, Blessing Kunzobani.